And we're back. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football on our Saturday night call-in show. We will leave the link in the chat, and also apologize to everyone that was waiting on the line. We just ran into a scheduling situation tonight. So we wanted to and had planned to start our Ole Miss postgame show that we will do each and every Ole Miss postgame each and every week when the Rebels play. But had a bit of a scheduling issue where I needed to take care of that. So thanks for everyone that joined us on the Ole Miss postgame show. And Leanne Herring and myself get together every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time for our Ole Miss live show. So please join us for that. Okay, we're going to hit the scoreboard. We're going to take your calls. We're going to take your comments and questions. Let's first get to the call-in line, and we will drop that in the chat. And we have to get caught up on the scoreboard, so let's do that. Okay, here we go. To the scoreboard. Okay, Kansas State 24, Colorado 14, going to the fourth quarter in Boulder. So it looks like a decent football game. Kansas State was like a 4-point favorite in that one. Boise State only a 13-7 lead as they have traveled to the islands this weekend to take on Hawaii. Of course, LSU and Ole Miss, 29-26 final score there as LSU moves to 5-1. So some people had discounted LSU as not a very good football team, but now they've notched a win against Ole Miss tonight. Georgia Southern squeaks by Marshall, 20-23. Minnesota on top of UCLA. So the Bruins lose another game in the Big Ten. They're 0-4 in the Big Ten as Minnesota wins at 21-17. Texas routs Oklahoma 34-3. The game of the day by most standards, Oregon nips Ohio State with a late field goal, 32-31. And, of course, the last-second decision by Will Howard that negated a possible field goal try by the Buckeyes. Penn State over USC 33-30 in overtime. Georgia on top of Mississippi State 41-31. Alabama beat South Carolina 27-25. Really good game in Tuscaloosa. Enjoyed that one. Definitely. Tennessee, a surprise that they needed overtime to beat Florida 23-17. Clemson over Wake Forest 49-14. Notre Dame 49, Stanford 7. Iowa State beat West Virginia 28-16. BYU remains undefeated. They're 6-0. They trounced Arizona. They must be pretty good. 41-19. Mizzou topped UMass 45-3. Pitt, they are 6-0 as they beat Cal 17-15. We've got Illinois besting Purdue 50-49 as a 23-point favorite. It took overtime for the Illini to avoid embarrassment. Iowa trounced Washington in the fourth quarter, 40-16. Wisconsin over Rutgers, 42-7. Georgia Tech beat North Carolina, 41-34. Ball State and Kent. Ball State wins at 37-35. Another score from the MAC. Buffalo on top of Toledo, 30-15. Army's undefeated. They defeat UAB, 44-10. Miami of Ohio over Eastern Michigan, 38-14. Louisville defeats Virginia with a late touchdown, 24-20. Cincinnati beat UCF 19-13. Colorado State on top of San Jose State, 31-24. San Diego State beat Wyoming 27-24. Old Dominion over Georgia State, 21-14. There's Western Michigan over Akron, 34-24. Northern Illinois defeated Bowling Green, 17-7. Memphis over South Florida, 21-3. Ohio beat Central Michigan, 27-25. Southern Miss and Louisiana Monroe give the win to ULM, 38-21. They're 5-1. And then, of course, we have our scores from earlier this week. New Mexico beat Air Force 52-37. Washington State on top of Fresno State 25-17. Arkansas State falls to Texas State 41-9. North Texas 41, FAU 37. Rice beat UTSA 29-27. There is the score that Neil Campbell gave us a super chat about. Thank you, Neil. Congratulations. Nevada tops Oregon State 42-37. Louisiana beats App State 34-24. There it is. Vandy over Kentucky 20-13. And Syracuse moves to 5-1. They defeated NC State 24-17. We will not go through the scores earlier in the week. Those are your finals on this fine Saturday night. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. We've got Adam on the line. Hello, sir. Hey, Adam, can you hear us?
Mark, can you hear me?
There we go.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. What's up?
Yeah, good to see you, Mark. I just wanted to make a few very brief points. Watching the Ohio State-Oregon game, I came away thinking that Ohio State is the better team and that they lost because it was an Outson Stadium and they didn't play their best game. But I think it's a good wake-up call for them, and I think they are the better team and will defeat Oregon if they see them again on a neutral field. What do you think?
Well, I tend to agree with you. I actually do completely agree with you, but I don't like to discredit the win. Oregon won the game fair and square. I do know that on one hand, Jordan Birch, Oregon's best interior lineman, did not play in the game. I also know that Ohio State lost two of their best offensive linemen during the course of the game. One came back later in the game, but at the point that they lost arguably their best offensive lineman, Josh Simmons, who never returned, and then Tegra Shabola, another one of their very experienced offensive linemen, I thought, man, they're in trouble. The biggest disappointment on the Ohio State side for me would be that their secondary looked bad. They got toasted a number of times. So whatever they need to do to fix that is point number one.
Yeah, I think there were some indications of that against Michigan State when Michigan State was moving the ball on them. But I do think that this is a good thing for Ohio State because it's going to help them to improve. And I think they'll ultimately still be contending for the national championship. As far as Alabama and South Carolina goes, my biggest concern from watching that game is that Kalen DeBoer is creating a culture that is not conducive to winning a national title. He has what some people would say is a relaxed attitude towards players, isn't the kind of old school disciplinarian that Nick Saban was. And I wonder if it's creating a culture that's not conducive to success. We saw how Malachi Moore behaved last week. And once again, Jalen Milroe reverted back to his former self. And I think that DeBoer, has got to discipline his players and hold them accountable. He should have benched Malachi Moore. And I'm just wondering what you think about the philosophy of taking a more relaxed approach to players, a more player-centered approach, and how that impacts culture.
So I do not believe in ranting and railing and screaming and yelling. And I'm not saying that you're in favor of that. I'm just starting to make a point here. So I have seen, ironically, that you bring it up, I've seen a few clips just in the last day, because YouTube knows what I like, of Woody Hayes doing old school coaching of his Ohio State players, which was very effective in 1970. I don't think it would be effective now. But what I do believe is effective, to your point, is your employees, your players, your whomever is reporting to you, whoever is below your leadership, who is submitting to your leadership, they don't respect people that are trying to be well liked. You
Right.
can't try to be liked. You need to be fair. They don't respect somebody who doesn't listen to them. They don't respect somebody who thinks they know everything or is heavy-handed or anything. But you have to be firm. You have to hold people accountable for things like what Malachi Moore did against Vanderbilt. Yes, otherwise you lose the respect of, and even if they don't like it in the interim, they will ultimately have more respect for you and have more respect for themselves even and their teammates. And I'm not saying that Kalen DeBoer doesn't do that, but I'm just kind of backing up your take on it. Kalen DeBoer obviously was highly successful at 3 other stops before Alabama. So I don't know that he's not going to be successful at Alabama.
That's a fair point. I guess time will tell. My last question for you is, so Rutgers goes on the road and beats Virginia Tech 26-23. They beat Washington at home 21-18, a team that beat Michigan. Okay, they lose to Nebraska 14-7 in a tough game. Then today they come out against a Wisconsin team that lost 42-10 to Alabama and 38-21 to USC and gets crushed 42-7. And I'm wondering, my question for you is, what is the psychology behind sports that causes players to be so effective one week and ineffective another? Because Rutgers didn't look like Rutgers today. And I'm not sure how a coach can affect that, and I'm not sure why it happens. What is your theory about why that occurs?
Well, I will say that Nick Saban, I heard him make a comment today. They must have played it during one of the halftime shows from his appearance on the Pat McAfee show, and he was just talking about generally he tended to really light a fire under his team when they were feeling good about themselves. He said when they won a big game, oh, you did not want to be playing for him that next week, where you would think he would take it easy on his team and he would applaud them and praise them for playing such a great game against a big opponent. But no, he knew that his famous term, of course, the rat poison is real. And that's when he would be the hardest on his team, when there was temptation to feel too good about yourselves and feel that you're better than your opponents. Whereas when he felt as though they needed a lift after a loss, that he tended to magnify their weaknesses, or not magnify, but build them up. So I don't know. I think it's difficult for most of us to relate to a performance industry to the degree that these guys are being asked to perform.
Yeah, I agree with you. I kind of remember back in the early to mid 80s when I was a kid, if I broke the rules in my house, there was strict and quick discipline. And I was always striving to be the best that I could be out of fear of what would happen if I didn't. And maybe that's not the healthiest approach, but it certainly taught me the kind of values that have helped me in life. And I wonder if we're abandoning that to some extent these days. And the last thing I'll say is Penn State defeats USC, but what I took away from that game is that Penn State and USC are both not contenders for the national championship. But thanks for having me on the show, Mark. Great show as always.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate it.
Take care.
And I would tend to agree with Adam's final comment there about Penn State and USC. Well, USC is certainly not a contender for the national championship because they've lost 3 games. Now, if we just, let's say randomly, just regardless of the record, threw them in the college football playoff, could they cause some problems? Of course they could. They could, because I think the competition out there is that equal. There's that much parity out there. But I thought that if I didn't know who those 2 teams were, USC and Penn State, if I had no former knowledge of who Drew Aller was or Miller Moss or the other 50 players that I know on both of those teams, didn't know that they wore different colored uniforms and all that, had no idea, I would have told you that USC was a better team. I thought USC played a better game. I thought they were the better team for most of that game. Now, they didn't get it done. They didn't win the game. Penn State did. Now, I also have to take into consideration that this travel, there's something to it. I don't think it should be used as an excuse in any such way. These teams have to travel all over the place, but we are now working on 10 Big Ten games where the team that has traveled, well, I guess Minnesota won tonight, correct? So they went out to UCLA and won by 4 points against a really bad UCLA team. So there is now 3 teams that have won traveling 2 to 3 time zones, and I believe the losses are 9. I think it's 3 and 9 in those situations. So that's not enough of a sample size for me to draw conclusions, especially since you have to look at the particular matchups involved. But yeah, I think Penn State and USC are both very good football teams, and they're both top 15 teams in the nation. And Penn State's probably a little bit better than USC. I thought going into today that they were considerably better, or substantially, decidedly, let's say decidedly, not substantially, that they were better than USC. Now, after watching them play, I'd say that Penn State's still the better team. They're the more consistent team. I can count on Penn State being consistent week to week more than I can USC. But when they're both playing what were they playing today? A B game, probably. They probably were both playing their B level game. Penn State was barely good enough to win. All right, let's keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. And again, I do appreciate everyone coming back to the stream. We just got caught in a scheduling situation tonight, and I was committed to that Ole Miss postgame show. And we will have Ole Miss postgame. I won't necessarily be hosting it, but we will have an Ole Miss postgame every week with Leanne Herring and maybe somebody else. All right. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. We've got our buddy Michael here.
Hey, Mark. Good evening, sir. Or should I say good morning?
You can say whatever you'd like.
All right. Boy, man, I did not expect that to happen in Champaign today.
You did not expect what?
I did not expect that to happen in Champaign today.
Oh, yeah. Your team almost pulled it out.
My goodness, man. I'm thinking when they had to recover the onside kick and scored right before halftime, I'm thinking, okay, here we go again. It's gonna be applause, 24-3, right? And then I caught some of the Coach Walter's halftime chat. He was saying stuff I can't say here because of FCC rules against you kicked off permanently, but I digress. But anyway, they came out on fire in the third quarter, and I've never seen that from them this year with Purdue.
Yeah, I can't really comment on any of it because I didn't see it, but I got to say that I was awfully surprised. Once I saw that Illinois was up, I think 24-3, I figured, well, that's what we're expecting. And then I saw Purdue come back, and I did flip to the game. I flipped to the game with Purdue up 43-40, I think was the score. On the last drive, and I saw a would-be fumble. Somebody caught Luke Altmaier from behind, and it was determined to not be a fumble.
He was down, no, because he was down by contact. It went down as a sack. Because the ball came out like maybe a split second after his knee touched.
Yeah.
But no,
so he wasn't down by contact because that's an NFL thing.
Well,
anyway, regardless, he was down.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was down before the ball came loose, or your team would have won the game.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they kicked the game-tying field goal. That's all I saw. And then I saw Illinois. Did they throw a touchdown pass in overtime? Is that what happened?
Yes.
Yes, I saw that. And that's all I saw. So I'm sorry, Michael, that your team didn't come through today, but they gave you some hope.
Mm-hmm. My thing is, though, I'm glad it was a fight and stuff like that. But my thing is, though, I think they should have kicked the extra point instead of going for 2 because they went for it twice in the game and got both times. So, but the thing is, Bielema was wanting to call a timeout, but he never got it. So, but they was like in a jailbreak defense, and one guy got open. one guy was able to get open, got a hold of Ryan Brown to end the game, though. And fortunately, that's the end. Me personally, I would have kicked the extra point, though, and then let them play another series and stuff. But I will say this about Luke Allmeyer, though, man. Not only did he kill him through the air, he also killed him through the ground, too, having some big runs and stuff. Clutch times, too. But as far as Ryan Brown, he played one heck of a game today, man.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah. But what's the mindset of that, though? And Oregon coming to West Lafayette next Friday night, I wonder what it's going to be like.
You wonder what it's going to be like in West Lafayette when Oregon comes to town?
No, because you know how they say teams have trouble with the time difference, right?
Yes.
I'm not saying Purdue's going to win, but with Ohio State and Oregon being a tight game tonight, and it's a night game on Friday night, stuff like that too. Who knows what might happen?
Well, yeah, you've got a few things going for you there. You've got the home cooking. You've got the time zone difference, if that means anything. And again, I was citing that trend just a few minutes ago. And then number three, to your point, Oregon played a night game tonight, or for them, a late afternoon game. But by the time the game was over and so forth, they're basically playing a night game, and then they've got to turn around and play on a short week. So Purdue could use all the advantages that they can get. I don't think that that's going to be near enough.
Well, sure, but you never know, though. But I tell you this, though, man. I mean, if I'm Oregon, I would be having maybe a QB spy on Ryan Brown if he plays next week, man.
Yes, I'm sure that they'll be scouting.
Mm-hmm. But we'll see what happens, though. But as far as with did you say you watched the Penn State USC game today?
Yes.
That's your 3:30 game. What is everybody crying about, saying, "Oh, Penn State got lucky"? Was there like some iffy penalty or something?
Well, the only thing I would say about the game is that every game I watched today, which, as you well know, are 2 games during every window, I saw questionable calls all over the place. But the thing I will say in USC's defense is that Penn State committed 2 pass interference on the overtime drive by USC that should have been called.
Okay. Well, is it just not looking back at the ball, or is it like literally grab or a literal push? I didn't see the game, so I don't know.
The first play was the USC wide receiver ran down and an out with a double move. Then he was going to the corner, and the Penn State defender grabbed his jersey and held him.
Oh, okay.
And then the other one was on the 3rd down before they missed the field goal, and it was kind of a button hook kind of curl route.
Mm-hmm.
And the Penn State defender arrived early, just was over his back early.
Okay. And I seen the clip of the end of the Oregon-Ohio State game. It looked like, in my opinion, Howard was sliding in the process of getting up when the clock hit 0. I don't know if
we've got the right guy here. Michael, we've got the right guy, because I was asked about this the last show. And for all the college football that I watch, I did not want to be critical because I don't know the rule on when the officials are responsible for stopping the clock in that situation. When is the clock supposed to stop?
What, on that play? It's a running clock unless it's a first down or they call timeout.
Well, yeah, it would have been a first. Let's see.
It wouldn't have been a first down.
It wasn't a first down. Okay. Yeah. Obviously, it's a running clock. So I have to think, and I was actually looking online before we started this second live stream. I was looking online to see if anybody was writing an article or providing any information on this scenario, because I would think, I don't know this for sure, that Ryan Day, like any coach in college football,
is right in the officials here calling timeout.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So I would think as soon as Will Howard went into his slide, basically when he gives himself up and that shin hits the ground, he's down.
Once he slides, he's giving himself up. That's what I'm surprised. Another thing is I'm surprised he didn't go upstairs.
Yes. Yeah. What's going on there? So like, I'm not sitting here all pissed off because Ohio State lost and they got ripped off. I've never said that they lost fair and square. However, Yeah, that they didn't review that play?
Oh,
Seriously?
touchdown Colorado.
Okay.
They just scored.
Anyway, so that they didn't
Sorry about
review
that.
that play, that's I don't understand.
Yeah, I think the only way they could have just to see how much time was on the clock, but still no, and stuff like that. But no, but I've never seen so much pathetic clock mismanagement today.
Okay, somebody else said the same thing, but they couldn't tell me when. Well, it was Nick, and he actually did cite the Alabama-South Carolina game. Okay.
Yeah, because they recovered the onside kick, and they ran a play. Then they maybe 15 to 20 seconds run off, and they got 3 plays. The last play was the interception. And what's so funny was Alabama trying to give the game away because didn't he go back into the end zone before he came out? He went intercepted it, went into the end zone, and then came back out.
Okay, this is what I'm guessing, Michael. Okay, so they throw the Hail Mary. Damani Jackson catches the ball, and he was kind of on the goal line. He was somewhat in, somewhat out, and he probably didn't know exactly where he had caught the ball and didn't know what the rule was, and he probably feared that if he knelt down, he might get a safety or something. I'm just thinking that he was unsure and just thought the safest thing for me to do is just run the ball out of the end zone. And then the athlete took over and he wanted to run as far as he could. And then he did finally slide.
Yeah. Someone said, I thought he slid went a couple yards and then came back out and stuff. But I think if he was on the goal line and went in, I believe it most likely would have been a touchback. But I'm not sure how that would have worked in college football though. So
why is it a touchback?
It would have been a touchback for Alabama. Or the game would have been over, is what I'm saying. If he was on the goal line when he caught the ball, and then his momentum took him into the end zone, and he downs it, game's over.
Alabama still downs it.
That's what I'm saying. I know, and that's what I'm surprised he didn't down it. But
he didn't down it. I'm guessing because he was unsure of where he caught the ball.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying because I didn't see the interception. So I'm just taking a guess. If he was on the end line, his momentum would have carried him like that. So, but anyway, that was a good game for South Carolina and stuff today. But I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting scenario next week in Texas in Neyland Stadium. And are both of those games at the same time, or is it too early to find out still?
I don't know when the games are. I think they should be announced. Yes.
Okay. I didn't know and stuff like that.
No, we've got plenty of time to look at that. We'll look at that in the morning.
Or later in the week and stuff. No, I was wondering stuff. So was there any other games that piqued your interest today?
Well, all sorts of games piqued my interest.
I mean, there was surprising results and stuff like that, like Iowa.
Surprising?
Yeah.
What was I surprised by? I got to say nothing. I thought it was a great day of college football, but no results surprised me.
Mm-hmm. How
Did
good
we
is Iowa?
Have any big upsets?
Yeah, well, you had Iowa blown out Washington, but that's a 2-hour flight. So anyway, but no, that was a good win for Iowa State tonight, though.
Yes, Iowa State got a big win.
Mm-hmm. Now, are they the class? Are they the class of the Big 12 right now, in your opinion, or is it still K-State?
Well, yeah, I want to see Iowa State play K-State. Those, I believe, are the two best teams in the conference.
Mm-hmm. Was you surprised about the outcome of the Texas-Oklahoma game?
Well, I did think that Oklahoma would be a little bit more competitive, but was I surprised? No, Oklahoma's completely hamstrung on offense. They've got nothing.
Yeah, all those receivers are still hurt, I think. I was wondering.
Yes, they got 5 receivers hurt. I've never heard of that ever happening to anyone before.
No.
Your 1 through 5 receivers are all hurt.
Oh.
And they had an excellent wide receiver core going into this season.
Mm-hmm. And one of them came from Purdue, who is Deion Burke. But that is so crazy having all your receivers hurt. But I don't know. But do you think Dylan Gabriel played a great game tonight?
Did he play a great game? Yeah, he played it very well. I can't think of one poor decision, one really bad throw. If he would have played like he did against Michigan State tonight, Ohio State would have won. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what he did that was wrong in this game. Obviously, he didn't play a perfect game. I know that he missed Tez Johnson on a throw. He didn't actually throw it, but he did not see Tez Johnson on what would have been an easy touchdown throw when they went for it on 4th down. But besides that, yeah, he played great.
Yeah, because it looked like Will Howard, from what I've seen in the stats, Will Howard had a heck of a. They both played a great game tonight.
Yeah, I have no issue with Will Howard whatsoever. I know that he's going to catch all sorts of hell for running and not leaving enough time on the clock. I get it, but he played well.
But I still think, though, that would have probably been like on the fringe of a 60-yard field goal attempt, though.
60? You just said he slid at the 28.
No, if he would have threw the ball away, is what I'm saying.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, they were at the 43, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not making a 60-yard field goal, that's for sure.
Yeah, now if Ryan Pretorius was there, that might have been a different story. I don't know if you remember Ryan Pretorius, but anyway.
I do remember him.
Yeah, I think he had late too, but anyway. No, it's just Purdue, man. Like when they had that, I thought sure they had that game won, and then the next play they gave up the 28-yarder, and that's what forced the overtime and stuff. But I don't know, man. Purdue played lights out today, man. If this is something that starts it, maybe. Who knows? I mean, if they go 1-11, I can understand. But if they're competitive, though, I'll be all right with that, though. But I would like to see some more numbers going to the left column instead of the right column.
Yes, that would be good. Anything else, Michael?
We'll see you in about, 10 hours, give or take?
That sounds good to me.
All right,
thanks, Michael. I
Thanks,
appreciate it. All right, let's keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. I'm always amused by some of the comments there in the chat. We got the real MVP stopping by.
Hey, Mark, how you doing this evening?
I am doing probably a little bit better than you. We've kind of forecasted a possible Kentucky loss, and lo and behold.
Yeah, it happens, Mark. I mean, can we play every game on the road? We're 6-5 on the road out of our last 11, and we're 2-10 at home over the last 12 in the SEC, Mark. I just want to play every game on the road. Every game. I don't want any home games for Mark Stoops. I don't want him ever. Also, I don't want the bye. Anytime he's on the bye the next week, his record is terrible with the bye. He's got to be one of the worst coaches in all of college football with the bye.
Yeah, you would think somebody would put that stat together. I would like to see that stat out of these.
Well,
coaches.
It's because nobody cares about Kentucky football, Mark. That's why that stat's not out.
I mean that stat for every coach in the country.
Maybe somebody has. I'm sure some degenerate's working on it right now.
Yeah, maybe. I don't see that anywhere.
Mark, I know you had a tough day as well with Ryan Day losing another big game. He's now 1-8 in big games, which are defined as playoff games or against Michigan. Does Ryan Day, if he loses to Michigan, need to get fired? And the only reason I'm suggesting this is because of the caliber of program Ohio State is.
My initial comment was that Big Ten championship games are not big games.
Not when you're playing the Iowas and Wisconsins of the world, Mark.
Okay. I would, whomever is defining the big game statistic, I would add Big Ten championship games, and I would add top 10 games.
Well,
a place like Ohio State, they cease to be big games when you win them, and then they count as big games when you lose them. So I get your point. He's lost playoff games and he's lost to Michigan.
Right. What's the goal for Ohio State is to win every game, right?
Well, wait a minute. You said 1-8, correct?
Yeah, in big games, playoff games, and against Michigan now.
Well, no. He beat Michigan once, and he's won a playoff game. There's 2 right there.
Let me see. Well, I've seen that stat floated around everywhere.
Yeah. So they beat Clemson in the playoffs, and he beat Michigan his first year.
They didn't have those on the list. I've seen floated around on Twitter and stuff, Reddit,
No,
and
you can't
those
believe
places.
everything you read on Twitter. That's why you come here.
Right. Well, when you have a graph associated with it, it makes it more credible. But my point, regardless of that, Mark, the point is Ryan Day, for whatever reason, seems to just be consistent. He never wins a game where it seems like it's, or he rarely wins a game where it's even, but he always beats the lesser team. And is that where you want to be?
Well, the ultimate goal is to win the national championship, and he has yet to do that. But besides that, so you make one point that is something that is attached to Brian Kelly, that he beat all the teams that he was supposed to beat. But if you look back at Ryan Kelly's tenure at Notre Dame, he generally did do that, and there's a reason why that narrative is attached to him. But he didn't do it like Ryan Day. Ryan Day never loses to anybody that's not an elite team. I don't know who's the worst team Ryan Day has ever lost to. Ryan Day lost to Oregon in 2021, and they still went to the Pac-12 championship game. That's the worst team he's lost to.
I know, Mark. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because the caliber of program Ohio State is.
Yeah, they're supposed to win national championships.
Right. The only teams I would consider having this discussion with in the current moment is Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia. Every other team, I would say Ryan Day is an exceptional head coach. But unfortunately, you're one of the three programs out there where he's not living up to where you need to be.
No, he's not. Now, we would have to, however, let this season play out. So if they go 10-2 and lose in the playoffs, or whatever their record is, and lose in the playoffs somewhere, yes, that will continue to be his a big issue. So right. You're asking me whether he deserves to be fired if they disappoint this year.
Let's say they win a quarterfinal game against some cream puff team like the 11 seed.
Sure.
They play Miami, they beat them, but they lose in the semifinal game to Texas, for example.
Yes. Okay. So they did not win the Big Ten championship, and they got an at-large, and they beat a cream puff. They beat Miami, and they lost to Texas in a respectable game.
It could be any type of game.
Okay. Well, no, I think it matters. I think it shows the level of your preparation. That's another thing in all of this. He's lost these playoff games in excruciating fashion. It's not like they went out there and got pasted by Georgia, like some other schools have during this playoff run. Some other schools in the Big Ten. And that Clemson game, we might as well say he kind of got robbed. So I think that has a lot to do with it. It shows how well prepared you are, how well you prepare your team, how close your team is to winning those games, versus if they lose to Texas 38-7, then I have a different outlook on it.
I guess, but it just felt like before entering this season, Ryan Day needed to shift the narrative, because we're having the same discussion as, well, he's able to beat everybody, and then when he faces somebody in the lead, he loses in excruciating fashion. This game reminded me a lot, Mark, of the Oregon-Washington games last year, where I think through every time they play, Washington was the better team, but Oregon found a way to win.
Yeah.
I know Adam said if they play again, Ohio State would probably win. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Oregon with Dan Lanning just finds a way to win games when they don't seem to be the better team. Why is nobody putting respect on Dan Lanning being a good coach?
I do. I think he's an excellent coach. I think he's still learning on the job, but I think he's an excellent coach. I do think that he coached 2 fairly bad games against Washington last year, though.
Yeah, but he won both of those games, and I would
No, he
argue.
lost both of those games.
Oh yeah, sorry, he lost both of those games. I got it reversed in my mind. Apologies for that. Mark, all those games that we thought were 50-50 games we were talking about yesterday, how there could be upsets, none of those actually panned out.
The Vandy Kentucky game.
No, the 50-50
Oh, the
games. That was a
50-50,
double
like
digit.
the
The
Cal
BYU
Pitt.
game,
Yeah.
the Pitt game, the Iowa State game, all of them won in pretty convincing fashion.
Okay. I don't recall exactly what those were. There were 5 or 6 of them. Okay.
Right. And to me, do you think Texas is just playing their food like with Georgia has done over the last few years, where they kind of know they're significantly better than their competition, but when they play somebody with a pulse, they just destroy them?
Yes. I think there's something to that.
Okay. And do you think Texas is clearly the best team in the country right now?
No.
Is it still Texas, Oregon, Ohio State for you?
Georgia. Those 4.
Okay, so next week is going to provide some clarity for you if Texas goes out and beats Georgia.
I would have been favoring Georgia to win that game up until another Georgia performance. Here in the last week, or 1 to 2 Georgia games has moved me into the category of expecting Texas to win that game rather than Georgia. And thinking actually that Texas is a better team than Georgia. When the season started, I thought Georgia was the best team. Ohio State was the second best team. Thought Alabama was actually the third best team, I think. But my thought process, until I see different, is that Texas is better than Georgia right now.
I agree with that. Only 5 teams, I would say, Mark, can actually win the national championship this year: Texas, Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, Alabama. Anyone you want to add or subtract to that list?
You are going to keep Alabama in that conversation, okay? I will too. I think we're in the minority because they're prisoners of the moment. Anybody else could win the national championship? I don't believe so. No.
Okay, and the reason I'm keeping Alabama is because of their talent level and the fact their quarterback has done basically this exact same thing as last year, where they skate by a bunch of bad teams, but yet they played Michigan to a 50-50 game, and Michigan went on to easily win the national championship against Washington. I could see the exact same thing like that playing out this year.
Yes. So Adam is serving up Notre Dame. I'm going to make a distinction that you may or may not agree with, DeReal. If we are talking about how many teams could win a game against the 5 teams that we just listed, then I could state teams like Notre Dame, Penn State, Ole Miss. I guess after what we saw tonight, throw LSU in there maybe, even though they are really shaky. They're shaky against whomever they play. Who else? Miami, maybe Tennessee, for as bad as they've been the last 2 times out. That those teams could win a game against Ohio State, Georgia, etc. But they can't win 3 or 4 games. I don't see Notre Dame winning 4 games. They can't win a conference. They got to win 4 games, 3 of them against really good teams and 2 definitely against elite teams. And I'm getting Clemson here from Adam, and maybe somebody else threw out Clemson. I got to see Clemson play somebody with a pulse. Clemson's schedule has been horrible ever since they stepped off the field against Georgia. They have beaten Appalachian State, NC State, who is horrific this year, Stanford,
Wake Forest.
Forest, and somebody else is mixed in there that I'm missing. Yeah, terrible teams.
Ralph is suggesting, I guess he's this for winning it all. I'm hoping it's not for it, but I guess he's suggesting Texas A&M, Miami, Clemson, and Tennessee. I mean, all of those teams could win a playoff game. Indiana's not winning a playoff game. To the person who put Indiana, they are not winning a playoff game. They would lose by 30-40.
Yeah, again, to me, there's a big difference between making the playoff and winning a game in which those 4 teams could do versus winning a gauntlet of games.
Right, and people don't seem to understand or can conceptualize that. Now, it's obviously going to depend a lot on the bracket and how the seedings are.
Sure.
Because if Texas A&M, because of their light SEC schedule, gets the 5 seed, then maybe they can win a game, or maybe they'll win 2 games. They'll probably be favored in 2 games, but outside of that possibility, there's no way it's going to happen. There's just no way.
I would tend to agree with you. And if the field is wider than I think it is, I am all for that. That would be great. I would love to see it. I would love to see the ACC, and I don't see anyone serving up any Big 12 teams, but I would love to see ACC and Big 12 teams have a shot to win a national championship. I would love it, but I don't believe in it. I don't see it. I saw Miami go out to Cal last week, and if about one of 18 different things would have happened, including a targeting call been made, they would have lost to Cal. They would have lost to Virginia Tech the week before because they were trailing by 2 scores with 5 minutes left. I just don't think they're that good. They're good. They're talented. Cam Ward's fun to watch. He's really good. He can sling it all over the place. They've got talent. But man, they're going to have to play a whole lot better.
Right. I was talking to a Notre Dame fan in the chat, and he was convinced a 9-3 SEC team, like, it would blow his mind if they made the playoffs. If Tennessee goes 9-3, Mark, okay, and they lose close games to Alabama and Georgia, win every other game, their best win would be Oklahoma. Would you put them in, or a 2-loss ACC Big 12 team or Notre Dame?
I would, so Tennessee loses to Georgia and Alabama. Their best win is Oklahoma. That's the best they can do?
Yeah, that's unfortunately the Vanderbilt. I guess Vanderbilt could be the best they do, depending on how they do.
Really? That is Tennessee's schedule. Okay. Yeah, NC State turned out to be a lousy game, non-conference, but I can't answer that for sure without sizing up the schedules. But yeah, I would tend to think that Tennessee at 9-3 goes in over Notre Dame 10-2.
Same with the ACC and Big 12 as well at 10-2.
Yes.
Even if the second ACC team is Clemson.
Well, that team's going to be probably 11-2. I guess they would have lost, most likely, they would have lost the conference championship game.
Does that change your equation at all?
Okay, they're 11-1. They lose the conference championship game. If it's Clemson and they lose, they've got a bad schedule. I don't know who else they've got on their schedule that they could lose to.
They played Louisville. I know that.
They got Louisville. They got a game at Virginia Tech. They don't play Miami. I don't think they play SMU.
They play at Pitt.
They play at Pitt. Okay. Yeah, if Clemson's 11-1, let's say they lose to Louisville by a field goal and they go to the ACC championship game and Miami's undefeated and they lose to Miami in a close game. I think they get in at 11-2 over a Tennessee 9-3 team because it's a weak relative to the SEC. It's a weak SEC schedule for Tennessee.
I mean, that's fair enough, Mark. That's just your opinion, but we'll figure it out once we get down that point.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's what should happen, but that's what I would tend to think that the committee would decide. Clemson 11-2, losing the ACC championship game in a tight game to an undefeated Miami team, goes in over 9-3 Tennessee, whose best win is Oklahoma, who's probably 7-5.
Something along that 7-5, 6-6 range.
Yes, Clemson's going.
Okay. Final thing I'll ask you, Mark. Do you think teams that run the football have an advantage this year because of the new clock rules? Vanderbilt, Army, and Navy come to mind.
Do they have an advantage? So what's the theory?
The theory is the games are shorter because you have a running clock after first downs.
Yeah.
So therefore you're having less possessions in the game, which means you're increasing the amount of variance that could happen on any given drive. So all you need is a turnover and 2, and then you're going to cut the possessions down from like 9 to 7. And you're going to increase your possessions from 9 to 11. And that variance is going to give you enough opportunities to score points and win games you shouldn't.
I thought the estimation going into the season was that this was going to cut about 7 to 10 plays for each offense in every game. Well,
Kentucky had 5 drives the first half against Vanderbilt.
Okay.
4 of them were actual drives. The 5th one was a kneel down.
Okay. So they probably had 8 drives, maybe 9 for the game?
Yeah, something like that.
Well, I think running teams always have an advantage if you truly can run it effectively, because the risk of turning the ball over is much less fumbling versus throwing interceptions, for one thing. Plus, the dominance shown by a rushing attack usually is indicative of offensive line dominance, and it's just much more reliable.
Right. I guess my point is it feels like it's really exaggerated this year because I don't know if it's just the defense is getting tired more because they're having to be out the field for more consecutive plays in a row, or it just reduces the talent gap because you're decreasing the amount of overall plays. But just something I've noticed. Northern Illinois against Notre Dame is another example of where they were able to shrink the game significantly by running the football.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. It's just something to look out for.
Well, so if you would have rephrased that to, is it more likely that there's going to be an upset, or teams that are underdogs, do they have a stronger likelihood of winning games? The answer would be yes, because of what you just said. It's just like college basketball, especially before the shot clock. If you can limit possessions, then you decrease the talent gap.
Right. I know basketball, to compare it to basketball, they're increasing the amount of possessions artificially because after you get a rebound after a shot, instead of going to 24, it goes to 14, which is helping more offensive possessions. Where
What?
Yeah.
When did that
That's
start?
happened in the last few years in college and the NBA. When you shoot it at 24, okay, and you
Yes.
get an offensive rebound, it resets to 14.
Okay, that's a new one on me. I didn't know that was, I don't really understand. It's a new possession. I don't really understand. It could be argued that it's a new possession. I guess it could be argued that it's the same possession as well. So I guess I'm not completely opposed to that, but I hate rules that seem to be that seem to be not in line with the structure of the game.
Right. Well, my point was something similar to that. Was before, when you would have after a first down, the clock would stop for a few seconds. You're giving the defensive players time to breathe, relax, and all that stuff. But now you're increasing the pace of the game overall because you're having to constantly, that clock is ticking down, which is shortening the game. And I think teams that are able to sustain strives, which is something Vanderbilt, Army, Navy are able to do because they're not talented as everybody else, but they're able to do so many wrinkles with the jet sweep, the triple option, and a bunch of power runs and stuff. It really feels like it's like, whoa, if you have a 16-play drive, you're able to eat off like 10 minutes of a quarter. Whereas before that wasn't the case. You would only eat off like 7-8 minutes. And just doing that over the course of a season, you're going to have significantly less plays. And that's why I think personally Army is 5-0 in conference. They're the most likely team to go to a conference championship game as of right now. And I think that's why it could be very interesting if we see a resurgence of the running attack going forward, because people are going to take advantage of these new rules.
Yeah, what I don't agree with is changing the rules after certain points in the game. That is completely manufactured. The rules should not be any different after the 2-minute warning than they are prior to.
Do you like the 2-minute timeout as a concept or an idea where they stop the entire game to get a long 4-minute commercial break?
Yeah, they do it to make money, and they also do it to make it more exciting. They want to encourage the offense scoring late in halves and late in games because that's exciting. That's why they changed the rules after the 2-minute timeout, because they want to make it more likely that the offense can drive the field, even if they've got not enough time otherwise to score, because that's exciting. But they've conjured up a situation. They've manufactured rules that are the rules should be the same with 52 seconds left in a game than they were with 5 minutes left in the game. There's nothing magical that happens that should alter the rules. I think it's completely manufactured. It's like putting a runner on second base. Where did the runner come from? Oh, we just want to get the game over with, so we throw a runner on second base. Well, that's stupid. They didn't earn second base.
Right. Well, it also blurs the line between legitimate sports and actual just entertainment. Is what's happening there, because it's more of a television and entertainment product than it is actually a sports product. Is what's happening with all sports, not just a.
And I can understand the argument that both teams play with the same set of rules. Therefore, I'm not saying it's not fair. It's just inconsistent, and it's not congruent with the rest of the structure of the sport. It's like it's like the kickoff rule. That's not consistent with the rest of the sport. A punt being downed at a particular yard line and the series starting from where the punt was fair caught or went out of bounds or was downed is consistent with the sport. That's where the drive should start. But a kickoff that lands and is caught at the 3-yard line that's artificially brought out to the 25-yard line, when you could have caught the ball at the 22-yard line and it's still brought out to the 25, or you could have caught it at the 9 and it's brought out to the 25. That's a stupid rule. You're treating the 25 yards just outside of the end zone like it is the end zone. It's just a dumb rule. And I know why they did it. They're trying to eliminate special teams plays because of the injury factor. I guess that's the motivation.
Right. Did you see the NFL's new kickoff?
Yes. So what makes me curious about that, and you may be able to answer this since you watch more NFL than I do, is that I'm guessing, I would hope they watched kickoff after kickoff hopefully they watched thousands of them to see where is the average in which the kickoff coverage unit is able to advance before the ball's caught or at the time that the ball's caught. And then that's what determined where they're able to start. Do you follow me?
Well, Yeah, well, they've completely eliminated when the ball's in the air, the players are able to move. The players are only able to move who's not the return people and the kicker who kicked off the ball until a player actually catches the football
Yes.
in the
Yeah,
NFL.
that's what I'm saying. And where do they stand? They're like the 40-yard line or something, right?
Yeah, the two they're 5 yards apart. The two teams.
Oh, they're only 5 yards apart.
Yeah, they're
So
only
this is
5
so
yards
they
apart
can't-
now.
So this is number one, so that they can't build up momentum to run into each other at 80 miles an hour.
Correct.
And is that the only determination?
They also moved the touchback from the 25 to the 30.
Oh, yeah.
And if the
Here's
ball,
we're going from the 20 to the 25, and now it's the 30.
yeah, it might be 35 here soon.
Good Lord.
Yeah, they were actually thinking they used some analytical models and said if you make it out to the 35, you're going to get more returns than the 30. That's what I heard, at least on the Pat McAfee show when discussing the new rule. So they're thinking about moving it to the 35. And it goes out to the 40 if the ball lands out of bounds or it doesn't land in the landing zone, which is the 20-yard line, and back.
And yet, if there's a touchback, because let's say there's a fumble and it gets kicked out of bounds or something, that still comes out to the 20.
No, it goes out to the 30 now. All
that goes
touchbacks
out
go to the 30.
as well. Everything comes out to the 30 now.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Well, they're trying to manufacture more offense because fans like offense.
Yeah.
So they're artificially removing the need of getting it one first down from the 20 to the 30.
Yeah. And they're truly not giving the fans more offense. They're just making it easier to score.
Right. So it's all
you're seeing a team
manufactured.
score, but they didn't have to earn it to the degree that they used to.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is why now you're seeing a bunch of 35, 32 type games. And that could affect college if this new system is implemented in the next few years, which I feel like it will be because the college game is modeled after the NFL game. And if you want to prepare them, you should have the NFL rules. So it's possible we get some crazy 60, 70-point games in the future if this new kickoff rule is implemented, especially for the high power offensive teams.
Okay. All right, DeReal. Anything else?
Yeah, I'll console you with your loss, and you'll console me for my loss today. How does that seem like a plan?
That's a deal.
Yeah, I'm getting used to this, Mark, so I can tell you. There's always next week, and at least for me, worst case scenario, there's basketball season. I don't know if that works for you.
That does not work for me. And this is the loss that Ohio State suffers every year. This is the one loss. They can only lose one. That is their average over the last 20 years. One loss per year.
I think you should win out the rest of your games. This was, in my opinion, the hardest game on your schedule. Penn State, it's James Franklin, so no need to worry about him. He'll screw it up even if it's a close game and they haven't been competitive. Michigan doesn't have a quarterback this year. You'll be fine until you make the semifinals of the playoff. You'll be totally fine. You probably won't even have a game within 2 scores until then, to be honest with you, Mark.
Yeah, we shall see.
Yeah. So have fun.
Thanks, DeReal. All right, let's keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. We got our buddy Sean here. Can't hear you, Sean.
Whoops, my bad. Hear me now?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Oh, what a day, huh?
Yeah, it was a great day.
Every time block had a nail biter or multiple.
Yes.
I mean, this is a day you kind of live for as a football fan. So talk about the game of the day at the beginning. I don't know. I mean, I expected this game to be the Ohio State Oregon game to, be very competitive, be very nip and tuck. Even though I don't think these two teams are equal, I think Ohio State's a decidedly better team, but the environment, the situation, and everything sort of made it seem like this game was going to be very tough. And Oregon's a top 5 team in the country, but the interesting thing about this is I don't know if this game matters that much. I mean, I think these two teams are so far and above the rest of the Big Ten. I'd be kind of borderline shocked if one lost the game the rest of the way. And then the Big Ten championship game is going to be so much more impactful than the regular season game was. It almost feels like this game doesn't matter that much. Am I wrong on that?
Well, time will tell.
Yeah.
You're probably not wrong, but I certainly wouldn't want to lose this game and be Ryan Day with the thought that another loss may mean no Big Ten championship game, therefore no bye. Because while I agree that these two teams appear to be the class of the league by far, I'm not going to discount, not just because of what we've seen this season, because I think we see it every year, that whether it's a Nebraska game or the Michigan game or whomever's on Oregon's schedule that could possibly challenge them, which from what I remember, their schedule is pretty light.
Oh, I looked it up right before I came on here. It's not much the rest of the way. They've got Washington at the end of the year. And, not really expecting much from that. So, yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah, I think we looked at it when we were trying to shoehorn Iowa into the Big Ten championship game. And I was telling Corey Bratta that to do that, he should have wanted Ohio State to win this game and clear the deck. But I guess there's different ways to look at it, because Oregon's almost assuredly, because of that lousy schedule, going to be in the Big Ten championship game, and Ohio State's going to have to avoid. They still have Penn State, Nebraska, Michigan, Indiana.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say those games are lock-in, shoe-in victories for Ohio State, but I mean, they're just massive favorites in all of those games the rest of the way. So, so I'm but that does bring up sort of an interesting scenario in all of these leagues with these bloated, divisionless schedules. There's bound to be some really confusing tiebreaker situations in some of these leagues. Who makes the league, and they play these completely disparate schedules that don't matter. I haven't looked up the tiebreaker scenarios for all of these, but there's going to be some really wonky championship games. I feel like where some teams get in that probably are inferior to teams that get left out that have the same record, and it's going to be
out of the 4 conferences. There will definitely be one conference where there's going to be some multiple tie for first place or second place.
Second place more like is the more controversial spot. Yeah, but
sure. Although if you've got a 4-way tie for first, then you're leaving 2 teams out that, especially if we're talking the Big 12 or the ACC, because that's likely to be their only spot. So what if we've got a 3-way tie for first place in the ACC, and it's Miami, Clemson, and SMU?
Yeah.
SMU didn't play either one of them, will not play either one of them. Maybe they get left out, or maybe they don't get left out. Maybe Clemson gets left out, and the thought is, well, they should be in the ACC championship game, but they don't get a shot, and the ACC only gets one bid.
Yeah. I mean, that's an extremely unlikely scenario, but I mean, that those will come up.
You think?
Yeah. There could be a 4-way tie with, the SEC could have like 9-0 Texas and a bunch of like 4 or 5 teams with 2 losses.
Mm-hmm.
Like who gets in that spot?
Yeah.
And then that's just and then like, do you even want to play in the champion? Like, we'll be playing in the conference championship game, potentially hurt your chances of getting in the playoff. Like, that can definitely happen.
Sure.
So I mean,
you will want to play in the conference championship game if you're in the Big 12 or the ACC. If you are in one of the other two, then you do not want to play in the conference championship game necessarily.
Yeah, probably not. No, it'll probably. Yeah, if you're in contention for a championship game bid, you're probably a likely playoff team. But if you go and you lose by 4 touchdowns, you might get left out. So,
from my recollection, there is nothing in the Big Ten tie-breaking rules that say anything about non-conference games. What if Ohio State wins the rest of its games, finishes 8-1 in the Big Ten, and Iowa wins the rest of its games and finishes 8-1 in the Big Ten?
You would imagine head-to-head would be one of the the second or third tiebreakers in that scenario.
What do you mean head-to-head?
I mean, Ohio State beat Iowa.
Oh, I'm coming up with a bad situation there. Yes, that is the first head-to-head.
Right.
If
I
guess since Ohio State plays Penn State, we don't have a really good scenario there, and they play.
But like you could say, like, well, I mean, they do play Indiana too. But I mean, like, you could just hypothetically, I mean, just say Rutgers happens to run the rest of the table.
No,
has Rutgers lost more than one Big Ten game?
They've lost 2 games.
Okay,
this is not going to happen with Ohio State and anyone.
Yeah, but it could have definitely happened that Oregon lost tonight. Like, Oregon could have been in.
It'll happen with somebody else.
Yeah,
it could happen with Penn State and somebody.
Yeah,
if Penn State beats Ohio State.
Well, Penn State's undefeated right now, so Penn State could lose to Ohio State in this spot. And then, well, yeah, I mean, it will happen at some point in the future. Like, some point there's going to be some wonky system where it's just you're going to have to go down to like the 5th tiebreaker and
again, I'm predicting it happens this year.
Oh,
somewhere.
It probably will. It was part of why I said, like, as soon as they announced, all these conferences announced they were doing away with divisions, they were all of a sudden expanding at the same time, and that seemed to be kind of a weird, diametrically opposed processes at that. Like, I mean, like, divisions. The bigger you make these conferences, the harder it gets to work around not having divisions.
Right now in the Big 12, BYU, Iowa State, and Texas Tech are 3-0. Then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams with 1 loss.
Yep.
And they've already played 3 conference games. They only play 6 more. I would be surprised if there isn't some kind of strange.
Yeah.
Because look at the 3 teams that are. It's not like Utah, Kansas State,
Oklahoma State.
Well, I guess Oklahoma State had been considered. Of course, they went to the championship game last year and they brought back all this offensive talent, but they suck. They're 0-3. So I think we all see Texas Tech and BYU and Iowa State losing games.
Yep.
So this is going to be it's just crazy to see Arizona State there at 2-1, Cincinnati's 2-1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could see a 5-way tie with 5, 7, and 2 teams, potentially
something like
that. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be bonkers to work out, but and I mean. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there was a lot of planning for these processes, and I think over the next couple of years there will be enough chaos, there will be enough controversy with how disorganized the system is that it will cause some reform at some level of these. So yeah, you look. Oh wow, look at all those undefeated teams. 4 undefeated teams in the ACC.
4 undefeated, 3 with 1 loss. 4 with no. 3, 4, 5, 6 with 1 loss. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and obviously that will sort itself out through the season a little bit, but there's a lot going on here. Yeah, look at that, Indiana. Now this is an interesting thing. Penn State is almost certainly going to be ranked ahead of Ohio State in the AP poll tomorrow.
Yes.
Would you say? I mean, like, does anybody that follows college football at all think Penn State's a better team than Ohio State?
No.
Or no? There's like no. That's not a reasonable position.
And you could argue that even though Ohio State lost and Penn State won, that Ohio State had a better performance just by the fact that they
easily
played one of the best teams in the country to the last play of the game, and Penn State needed overtime to beat a good USC team, but nobody's going to confuse them with, the Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart USC teams.
Oh, absolutely not. No, this is a very flawed USC team, and this is honestly a pretty flawed Big Ten conference right now. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't feel like the upper middle or something of this conference is really holding itself to a standard here. Like, I don't think USC and Michigan, I think, are very, very average teams this year. And then, no one. I mean, maybe Indiana will step up to that level, but Indiana, you can't discount what Indiana's done this year. I know their schedule's been trash, but I mean, like, they've looked the part of a playoff level team so far. I mean, their performance has been really good.
Well, it's good for them, and it's
just good. Period.
I don't know if they are playing playoff caliber football by beating Maryland by 2 touchdowns, or beating UCLA, or beating Northwestern by 17.
No, but Maryland, they were -4 in the turnover department in that game, right?
Yes.
Am I correct? And they won that game essentially by 3 touchdowns. Maryland scored a garbage touchdown at the end, and I mean they've completely annihilated the competition they've played. I mean, I don't know if they're at this level or not. But I mean, it's not crazy to think that they could make the playoffs right now. I mean, they don't play Oregon, I believe.
No,
and they only play Ohio State in Columbus, I believe. They play Michigan, but I mean, like, that's. I mean, Indiana's. I think I saw, like, Indiana's like almost like a 50-50. Chance, according to the FPI, to make the playoffs right now. It's utterly crazy. It's just
I don't tend to agree with that, but I dispute the FPI pretty regularly.
Yeah.
The one thing, see, here's another thing. We bring this stuff up all the time, and you and I had a conversation this week about trap games and metrics about trap games. Okay, what is the metric around the FPI? I would love to know the accuracy of the FPI.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, that would involve a lot of study. Like, if they say a team is 50% to achieve some sort of outcome at one point, like, how often do they actually reach that?
Yeah.
I mean,
and somebody would have had to archive all this, because obviously it disappears. It's gone once the game's over. I don't think that, ESPN is housing that anywhere in their archives that we could go look it up. So somebody would have to be tracking it.
Yeah, you would have to like screenshot it every week.
I know that I lost faith in the FPI a zillion times, but two that come to mind would be that Ryan Day's first team, 2019, that team had a 6% chance of winning the Big Ten, according to the FPI when the season started. When I saw that, I about fell down the stairs. Like, in what universe does Ohio State win the Big Ten 6% of the time? Like, if they could play 100 seasons and they're going to win the Big Ten 6 times. Seriously. Just because they have a new coach and a new quarterback. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and the irony is that team probably would win the Big Ten 94% of the time. That team that year.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just when I lose confidence in the ESPN, like the FPI and these predictor machines, when I see I remember I looked this up when Ohio State was playing Marshall this year. I looked this up and it gave Marshall a 4% chance of winning against Ohio State.
Yeah.
And I think that's off by like at least a factor of 10.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, like that's just like no. They're not winning 4%.
No, they're not winning 4 out of 100. No.
That's not going to happen. That's an upset that happens like once every 25 years.
The other time I lost faith in the FPI was when New England was playing Jacksonville in the AFC Championship game, and I'm watching the highlights on SportsCenter or wherever, and they note that I think that this is 2017. This is probably when they're really trying to push the FPI, and Jacksonville had a 10-point lead with like 9 minutes left in the game, and they had a 99% chance of winning the game. And I said, are you kidding me? Tom Brady with a 10-point deficit with 10 minutes left in a championship game at home. That's like a toss-up. That's like a 50-50 game.
That might be stretching it a little bit, but yeah, I don't disagree with your sentiment there. Like, they're nowhere close to 1%.
45 against, maybe.
Yeah. So absolutely. Well, how about the Falcons back-to-back weeks? I think they were 99.9 and then 99.7 2 weeks in a row to win, and they lost both of those games. I remember.
How were they 99%? Okay.
98.9
during the course of the game.
During the course of the game,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both the times they were over 99% back-to-back weeks, and they lost both of those games.
So if you know anything about math, you know that simply would not have happened. Like we would still be waiting for the time when some team that had a 0.3 and a 0.1% chance of winning would win back-to-back games.
Yeah, you would have it would be 3 in 10,000 opportunity of chance of happening. No, 3 in a million. There would be 3 in a million chance of happening. With that, so yeah. I mean, like, there are a lot of times I look at. I mean, they're fun metrics to play with, fun things to look at, and I'm sure they're using some solid methodology to this. But I mean, the results are never exactly right. So, I just wanted to get. Your thoughts right now, the end of that Ohio State game. What did you think of that OPI call on JJ Smith there at the end?
So did they show a replay?
I've seen they showed a replay. They showed one replay, and they showed exactly one replay, which I was really annoyed with.
I want to see it from every angle. These productions, I made a statement earlier tonight that for some reason I just think that these network productions have done a lousy job this year. But anyway, I don't recall what I saw. I just recall not seeing enough evidence. I wanted to see a replay, and I don't remember why I didn't see a replay. I don't know. Maybe because I was watching two games at the same time, but I can't imagine anything was going on with Ole Miss and LSU that was nearly as important as that play. But anyway, I would like to see the play again, because if he pushed off, that's the first thing that went into my mind when they said there's a flag and there was separation there. So I figured, well, he must have pushed off. So I don't know if it was warranted, then it should have been called. I don't know why the final play wasn't reviewed.
Yeah, that was really interesting too. I mean, it might have. I mean, I don't have any problems with the way it was called, but it definitely seemed like. I mean, I don't know, like he slid there with about 1 second. It looked like it might have hit zero before he came to his complete slide. And would that have been enough time to call a timeout in that situation? Like it was a bit wonky. There was another one that wasn't reviewed in this game. That the first drive. Were you watching at that point? The pass to Will Kazmarek?
Yeah,
that was. How do you not review that? That is insane to me.
Yes.
I mean, it was very clearly an incredibly close play, incredibly close call. And I mean, like, it was this hugely consequential play. I don't know why you don't stop that to review it. So I don't know. Officiating blunders strike again, I guess. But so
because to me, as soon as Will Howard gives himself up,
yeah,
the play. If Ryan Day is doing what every other coach does, he's standing right next to the official and letting him know when this play is over, I want a timeout.
Yeah, he's probably standing right next to the line judge the entire time. Like, just like, you know what? As soon as that, I mean, yeah, it was a wonky play. I don't know. There was also, after that pass interference call, the clock started running again, which I didn't realize was part of the rules at all.
Yeah,
but
I don't know if you heard the discussion in the booth about that, but they were talking about
I did not. There was too much noise in my house.
I didn't realize that either, but they said that since that was a call against the offense and the play did not see, this didn't make much sense to me because I've never heard this before. The official in the booth said that since the play did not end out of bounds, like with a runner running out of bounds, then the clock continues to run.
Yeah, that's a, you know, like I know coaches are going to catch grief sometimes for not knowing the particular nuances of all these rules, but I mean, like, my God, if we're going to get this like arbitrary with, you know, the enunciation of these rules, I mean, like, how can any coach really keep up with all of that stuff?
It's always been my thought that, okay, there's a play, there's a flag during the course of the play, the play's over, and however it ends, whether that's a runner running or somebody out of bounds or an incomplete pass or whatever it is. And then the official obviously announces to the stadium what's going on in the play, and the clock's not running. And then they set the ball and then they start the clock. So I don't know at what point they started the clock after that.
I think they started the play clock and the game clock and the play clock at the same time. I didn't exactly know, but that led to about like 6-7 seconds going off the clock. That I mean, I trust the officials that they adjudicated it correctly, but I mean, I can't tell. Ryan Day has caught like some flack for that online, and I'm like I don't know how you can be precisely aware of every situation and every one of these wonky rules at this point. I mean, it was
Rob here is letting us know. Yes, I'm certainly showing myself to be a sore loser.
Yep.
Yes, I'm. This person has either never watched before, or I don't know what the problem is, or they are just being stupid. But yeah, I question things regardless of who wins and who loses if there are such plays going on. So
yeah, I mean, I guess you live and learn. So yeah, we're watching this. They're showing the replay on Big Ten. So it looked like Will Howard gave himself up like right at about the 30-yard line here. And there was like 1 second on the clock. I mean, that would have been really hard to, man, that would have been an interesting review right there. And then, yeah, I mean, it's been a bugaboo for. I feel like Ryan Day has just kind of caught the wrong end in a lot of these big games. You can talk to him about not winning a lot of these big games. I really feel like he's kind of gotten the raw end of a lot of really wonky, weird situations in all of these games.
Yeah, two are pretty obvious, and regardless of who you root for, you would have to admit that. Shoot, we sat here last off season and we watched the Clemson playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
And we watched it with 3 or 4 Clemson fans, and they even said, yeah. They even said, yeah, in watching this again, yeah, this is pretty bad.
Yeah. It was weird, that Clemson game. It was not like I didn't feel like any of those specific calls were like just egregious, but it was like
exactly.
Every single like close call in that game went Clemson's way.
Yeah.
Every single one. And there were like 5 of them.
There were 4 that were really decisive.
Yeah.
When I mean decisive, they impacted the game. They weren't decisive in regards to.
Well, I mean, like they were incredibly impactful calls. Yes. It's just, so, I mean, yeah. And then like, yeah, I mean, the Georgia game, like that targeting call not getting called, I mean, I thought that was close too, but that went against them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, yeah, I am not arguing that there should have been targeting.
No.
I'm like you. I'm just stating that whatever was, it could have gone either way. And it just so happened that it went against Ohio State, and they would have had a 3-score lead. Right.
Mm-hmm. And that's just the point I'm making about these close games with Ryan Day. He has not gotten the benefit of the doubt in any of these tight spots, any of these close. So, I mean, that is what it is, but, nothing changes. I still think, the season's completely in front of them, and I still think this is the best team in the country, and I think they will win the national championship this year. And very hopeful that they do. And what a wonderful day of college football. And hopefully, I don't know if you got other callers behind, but I will. Oh man, Dayton made ESPN.
All right, Sean.
Football.
I appreciate it.
All right, guys. Have a great night, Mark.
All right. We will take our final call, I believe, then. We've got Matthew on the line. Matthew, what's going on?
Hey, it's the Wax Man here. How you doing, Mark?
Good. How you doing?
It's been a rough day. Buried my uncle this morning and watched the Buckeyes lose.
Sorry
and it's
about
been,
that.
yeah, I appreciate it. But let's talk about some live stuff going on right now. Ashton Jeanty at Boise State. He's amazing.
Yes, he is.
Yes. He's over 200 yards tonight. He had 200 yards last weekend. The guy is electric. If he's not in New York by the end of the season, I don't think anybody should be there.
Oh, I think he'll be there. whether he'll win it or not, I think that there are going to be a lot of voters that will automatically not vote for him based on competition.
I agree with that. Obviously, they're playing Hawaii tonight, and Hawaii, they're down 20, or Boise's up 28-7 right now, but they're not playing top tier competition. But they did hold Oregon very close, and Oregon just beat one of the best teams in the country tonight.
Sure, but that's one game.
I agree.
I'm not, when I say things like that, that doesn't mean I'm arguing with you or that I don't think you have a valid point. I'm just bringing up the counterpoint, is that I agree with you that Boise State played an excellent game against Oregon. They gave up 2 kick returns for touchdowns. Otherwise, they, of course, would have won the game. And it came down to a last-second kick. So they played great. They played at Autzen Stadium and still outplayed Oregon. And Jeanty had a ridiculous game. I don't remember how many yards. I just looked at it the other day, but I don't remember what the final was, like 225, whatever it was.
Insane numbers for the last.
I'm just making the point that he's not playing those kind of teams every week.
Oh, I understand that. I really do. But to put up, even if he was playing top tier competition, a top tier running back, like let's say Quinshon Judkins, for example, you're looking at 95 to 100 yards a game, maybe a little bit more. But Jeanty's getting 190 3 weeks ago, 180 the week after, and then 200 last week, and then over 200 this week. That's highly impressive. Using calculations, he's on pace to break Barry Sanders' single season rushing record.
Okay, well, and those are the kind of things that catch people's attention too. A lot of voters may vote for him simply because he breaks the rushing record.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting to see somebody not playing at a big time school. And obviously Boise, back in the day, back in, early 2000s, they were legit. I think we all knew that. We were aware of what they were doing. They're not as irrelevant today, but it's just impressive to see a player doing what he's doing.
I definitely agree.
Yep. And I'll let you get off here because it is, almost 2:30 in the morning. I hope you had a great day, and I love your show, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you calling, and I'm sorry that it was a difficult day for you. And I hope that your family is comforted, and our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family.
Thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate that. God bless you.
God bless you. It's nice to hear from Matthew. And so some things are much more important than football, but his Buckeyes lost tonight and unfortunately lost a loved one. All right, folks, we will be here on Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time to take your calls. The reason we've decided to do that this season is to give the opportunity for some people that don't stay up late and give them the opportunity to watch the show and to call in on Sunday morning. So we'll be here at 11 a.m. Eastern time, and our buddy Joey is doing a good thing for us right here. Just reminding everyone that the link to the Amazon link is in the description section of all the videos, including this one. And I'm sure I drive you guys crazy about this, but it's because I just figure if everyone who enjoys the voice of college football would use the Amazon link, that it would help our channel and our network out immensely. You cannot imagine, believe me, for every dollar you spend at Amazon, you send 3, 4, 5, 6 cents to us. It depends on the item, but 3, 4, 5, 6 cents goes to the voice of college football. So why send all of it to Amazon? Might as well send some to the voice of college football. Yes, Amazon's worth $2 trillion. We at the voice of college football are worth slightly less than $2 trillion. We're trying to catch Amazon. So please help us with that venture. And the most important thing is that your shopping experience is protected. And when you use the Amazon link that we provide, it's the same exact shopping experience. I have tried this out with 50 different people. I'm exaggerating. Maybe 15, where I've sat right next to them, somebody in my family, a friend, and they have used the Amazon link, and it automatically, I even used it on here to show all of you a couple weeks ago, that it immediately transitioned to my account, instantaneously recognized that it's Mark, my shopping history, all of that. So you still have your credit card information, whatever you've got on your Amazon link, it immediately recognizes that it's you. So please check out the Amazon link. Please use it. Put it somewhere where you will remember it when you shop on Amazon. You would help the network immensely if you do that. Also, I will be sending out the link to purchase our new book, which is called Disputed National Champions, College Football's Historical 1990s Reset. This is just not a history book. It is basically taking each season during the 1990s. And the reason I chose the 1990s was because I consider that to be the most transcendent and the most impactful decade in college football history in regards to determining a champion, because we went from the polls, and then the Bowl Coalition was introduced in 1992, which guaranteed that outside of the Rose Bowl, that the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country would play in postseason play. Then, of course, we had the introduction of the BCS in 1997, which led right into the playoff that started in 2014. So what we've done, in addition to dissecting every season during the 1990s, so, for example, you go to 1990, and of course, we've got an introduction to the season. We title that Change is Coming, 1990, Chapter 1. And I give a preview of what happened during the season, 1990, the preseason, what was the outlook of these teams, the preseason poll, both for the coaches poll and the AP. And then I take you through the season and the important games and situations and scenarios. Then I outline the postseason assignments for each team and why those came to be, and then the postseason results. And then we go into the final AP poll and the final coaches poll. Who got left out that should have been considered? And then, was the vote valid? Was it credible? And we dissect the vote by the AP writers and by the coaches, and we check out the validity. Then we take that season of 1990 and we move it ahead into future formats. And we look at it through the lens of the BCS, through the lens of the 4-team playoff, through the lens of the 12-team playoff, and through the lens of the proposed 14-team playoff. And then we cap off our analysis of 1990 with the aftermath of that season and how that season changed college football. That's just for 1990. We do 91, 92, all the way through 1999. I also find it interesting so for example, in 1990, there were no conference championship games. The SEC title game did not start until 1992. So we take what the championship games would have been in each conference in 1990. You would have had an ACC championship game of Georgia Tech, 10-0-1 against Virginia, 8-3. The Big 8 title game would have been Colorado, 10-1-1 against Nebraska, 9-2. The Big 10 championship game, the Pac-10, the SEC, the Southwest Conference, and so forth. So this is Disputed National Champions of the 1990s, and this will be released and available for everyone. It actually is right now, but for certain reasons, the publishing company would like us to hold off. It will be launched on October 29th, but we will provide that link for everyone, and we hope that you would consider giving this a look. All right. It's an easy read. It's 100 pages. There you go. All right, folks. We do appreciate all that you do being here at the Voice of College Football. It was quite the day. And we will be back on Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. See you then.